Hey friends, tonight I'm sharing an unlikely crime syndicate that rocked a yellow-skinned town to its core. The RICO case that brought down Springfield. A tale of pickled evidence, donut bribes, and one very suspicious church crypto fund. If slow-burn crime stories help you drift off, like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Now settle in and let Detective Jason Ratham, me, walk you through the dumbest takedown in criminal history. Chapter 1. The jelly-filled incident. They say crime never sleeps, but in Springfield, it doesn't even nap. It just wanders the streets in flip-flops, sings show tunes to itself, and occasionally sets something on fire for no reason. My name's Detective Jason Ratham, and this is the case that made me question the very definition of intelligence. It started, like all good disasters do, with a donut. Jelly-filled, stolen, from the Springfield Police Department's break room. I was sent in as a federal observer, a neutral party, a fresh pair of eyes, or, as Wiggum put it, some guy in a suit who doesn't even know what a fritter is. The briefing took place in the police station lobby, which was currently on fire. Not the whole thing, just the vending machine. Apparently, someone tried to microwave a Slim Jim. Again. Detective Ratham, Wiggum said, blowing powdered sugar off his mustache. We've got a serious situation. A jelly-filled was taken right out of the evidence fridge. You mean the fridge labeled "Do Not Eat, Evidence Only"? I asked. Yeah, he said, but in Comic Sans, so I can't really be blamed. That's when Lou leaned in and whispered, Chief, you're eating it. Wiggum looked down at his sticky fingers, blinked, then muttered, It's called chain of custody, Lou. I'm the chain. That's when I knew I wasn't here for a pastry. I was here for the mess beneath the glaze. The jelly was just the first leak in a dam about to burst. I began canvassing the crime scene, or, as Springfield calls it, the station's fridge room. It was a janitor's closet with a mini fridge and a single flickering light. Inside the fridge, 6 half-eaten donuts, 1 Hot Pocket from 1998, and a suspicious jar labeled Krusty's Pickle Chunks. I took samples. Forensics confirmed what I suspected. This wasn't a simple theft. It was a message. Someone had licked the jelly off the donut, replaced it with grape jam, and resealed it. It was a signature, a calling card. And there was only one man stupid enough to leave a signature in jam. Homer J. Simpson. I found him lying on the nuclear plant's break room floor, snoring into a pile of sprinkled shame. Wake up, I said. No, he groaned. Let the donut take me. I kicked his boot. He farted in response. I'm not here to arrest you, I said. I'm here to find out why someone's swapping jelly with jam and pointing fingers at the dumbest man in Springfield. Homer sat up, looked me over like I was a walking can of Duff. Are you a cop? He asked. I'm worse, I said. I'm federal. His eyes widened. You're not from the IRS, are you? Not yet, I replied. He screamed, loud, and dove under a table that had no legs. I didn't do it, he cried. I was framed. I swear on Maggie's pacifier. Then tell me who's framing you, I said. And use small words. I've heard your vocabulary. It's thematic. He wiped powdered sugar off his lip. It's Mo, he said. It's always Mo. That guy's more crooked than a curly fry. Your bartender, I asked. Yeah, he's been acting weird, shifty, like he's got secrets buried in the jukebox. That's not a metaphor, is it? Number I saw him burying a USB stick in there behind Baby Got Back. I left Homer sucking jam off his fingers and headed for Mo's Tavern. The kind of place where the lights don't work, and neither do the people. Mo was behind the bar polishing a glass that hadn't been cleaned since the Reagan era. You Mo Zeislak? I asked. Depends. Who's asking? Federal agent, I said. Investigating food fraud and possible racketeering. He squinted at me. That's not real, he said. Food fraud? You made that up. I pointed to the jar of pickled gizzards on the counter. What part of this looks legal? He stared at it. It's artisan, he mumbled. You selling USB sticks with your jukebox too? I asked. Mo stiffened. Homer says you framed him, I continued. Which would be hard if he had a frameable brain. But right now, he's just the first donut in a long box of bad pastries. Mo glanced at the bar mirror, then leaned in. Look, I ain't saying nothing, but I might know a guy who's been funneling money through discontinued Duff cans. Name? I asked. Disco Stew, he whispered. You're joking. Do I look like I joke? He didn't. He looked like a man who flossed with barbed wire. I stepped out of Mo's and lit a toothpick. Rain wasn't falling, but grease was. The air smelled like fried secrets. Someone had framed Homer. Mo was sweating. Duff was hiding money. And now Disco Stew was on the radar. This wasn't about a jelly donut anymore. This was about the whole damn bakery. And Springfield was full of stale goods. Chapter 2. Mo's Missing Millions. The thing about Mo Zeislak is, he sweats guilt even when he's innocent. Which, for the record, is statistically unlikely. His bar smelled like mildew, shame, and an off-brand lemon cleaner that could strip paint off a battleship. And yet, somehow, his tax forms were spotless. Too spotless. Like someone wiped away the sins, or used white out on a printer. Either way, I smelled money. And I knew it wasn't from drink sales. Nobody voluntarily buys something called a flaming Mo unless they're trying to die faster. So I requested the books. Mo handed me a single receipt, dated 1996, for a bag of Funyuns and a mop. I run a cash business, he shrugged. This mop's still around, I asked. Depends what you mean by around, he said. Physically existing, I clarified. Then no. I didn't need the mop. I needed the truth. So I did what any good investigator would do. I waited for Mo to go to the bathroom, then broke into his office. The door was locked with a single rubber band and what I think was a bread twist tie. Inside was everything I expected: a crusty desk, a poster of Lonnie Anderson, and a safe that smelled like regret. The safe was open, empty, except for a note. In crayon, it read, "I owe you, Stu." I pocketed it, crayon and all. Mo came back out, wiping his hands on a towel that might have once been alive. "You think this is a joke?" I asked. He blinked. "Buddy, if I was joking, you'd be laughing." "What's Disco Stew doing in your safe?" I pressed. "He's been throwing disco raves in the old monorail tunnels," Mo muttered. "Said it was a tax write-off." "And you lent him money?" "I didn't lend him nothing. He just used my bar as a routing station." "For what?" Mo looked around, then leaned in like he was confessing sins to a priest with a badge. "Used vinyl laundering." "Excuse me," I said. "Old disco records," he whispered. "He buys them at estate sales, sells them for 30 times the price to fake buyers in Moldova. All cash. All vintage. None of it real. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That Springfield baby." I took the IOU and left Mo with his thoughts, which were mostly soup. My next stop was the Springfield Department of Urban Transit, aka the monorail ruins. Abandoned since the mid-90s, now home to bats, rats, and people who dress like bats and rats. I followed the smell of dry ice and desperation, found a neon glow leaking from a hidden hatch, and there he was. Disco Stew, gold jumpsuit, platform shoes, making it rain with outdated currency. "You Disco Stew?" I asked. He spun on one heel and pointed at his name bedazzled across his chest. "The one and only baby." "I'm investigating Mo's missing money," I said. "He says you owe him." Stu leaned on a turntable made from a washing machine lid. "Mo's a square man," I told him. "This economy only accepts groove-based assets." I gave him equity in funk futures. "That's not a thing," I said. "It is in my heart," Stu replied. "Did you or did you not use Mo's Tavern to launder vinyl profits from fake estate sales?" "Define launder," he said, adjusting his sunglasses indoors. "To make dirty money look clean." "Then yes." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Do you have records?" "Of course, I'm not a criminal. I'm a brand." He handed me a glittery binder labeled Stew's Financial Feelings. I flipped through pages covered in scented markers, sparkly gel pen ink, and what looked like avocado dip. "Is that guac?" I asked. "The market dipped," he said. I sighed. "Look, this scheme ties you, Mo. and at least one inflatable flamingo to a chain of offshore purchases that smell like pyramid fraud. Technically, it's a rhombus, he replied. I left before I lost IQ points, but I had enough. Stu's records weren't admissible in court, but they were colorful, and they pointed to one clear conclusion. Moe's Tavern was a front, and the clown was next. You can tell a lot about a town by its clowns, and Springfield's was rotten at the core. I returned to HQ to find Wiggum wrestling with a vending machine. We're out of Chocobath bars, he grunted. Good, I said. Less sugar, more brain cells. I dropped the IOU and the guacamole-stained ledger onto his desk. I want access to Krusty's financials, I said. What for? Because this isn't just about Moe anymore. It's about where Moe's money went. And all roads lead to a clown with offshore balloons. Wiggum nodded, chewing on something that might have once been edible. You're really taking this donut thing seriously. It's not about the donut, I said. Then what's it about? Power, greed, and a town too lazy to hide it well. That night, I returned to my motel. A place with vibrating beds, flickering lights, and towels that cried when touched. I poured myself a glass of motel brand whiskey. It was 60% water and 40% regret. Then I stared out the window at the glow of Springfield. It blinked like a broken neon sign. I came here for a jelly donut. Now I had a disco-themed fraud ring, a bartender with missing millions, and a clown with suspicious wire transfers. The icing on the cake. I hadn't even met the lawyer yet, but I knew his name. Lionel Hutz. And that meant the stupid had only just begun. Chapter 3. Duff or Die. Duff beer. Springfield's unofficial religion. Brewed locally. Advertised globally. Consumed irresponsibly. I'd never trusted a company that needed a mascot with a cape, abs, and no HR department. But now, with Moe laundering cash and Disco Stu swimming in retro funk shell accounts, it was time to follow the foam back to the tap. Because the next layer of this frosted cake of crime was corporate. And Duff was at the top. Or maybe bottom. It was hard to tell with beer. I showed up at the Duff Brewery, wearing a visitor's badge and a face that said, "I'm here to ruin your fiscal quarter." A tour guide greeted me with forced enthusiasm and suspiciously glazed pupils. "Hi, I'm Chad. Do you like beer?" "I like subpoenas," I replied. "Awesome," he said. I flashed my credentials. "I'm here to speak with your CFO." Cool, Chad muttered. "I think that's, Lenny or Carl. Wait, is it still the goat?" "Excuse me?" "Budget cuts," he said. "Just follow the Suds trail." I did. Past vats labeled Duff, Duff Light, Duff 2.0, and one mysteriously labeled "Not for Interns." I found the executive offices upstairs, behind a door marked "Accountant. Enter only if you know what a ledger is." Inside was a woman named Cheryl with a face like she'd eaten too many secrets, and a voice like stale carbonation. "You're from the feds?" she asked, without looking up. "Worse," I said. "I'm from the part of the feds that audits your soul." She sighed and slid a manila folder across the desk. "We've been expecting this." "That folder better be thicker than your tax margin," I said. "It's just a list," she replied, "of payments we made to unorthodox vendors." I opened it. There they were, line by line. Payouts to Moe's Tavern, Krusty Company, Disco Stew, LLC, even one to Milhouse Consulting, Emotional Damages Division. "You're paying these people?" I asked. "We were encouraged to support local businesses," Cheryl said. "Stimulate the Springfield economy by buying stolen disco records. Technically, we filed those as nostalgia derivatives. And Moe's? Brand Synergy Initiative. He stocks Duff. We give him rebates." "How much?" "Enough to make him look like a small brewery on paper." I took a deep breath. It smelled like hops, bleach, and excuses. "You understand this is textbook corporate fraud," I said. "No," she replied. "We printed it out in Comic Sans. That's not a textbook." "Do you have any idea who signed off on these?" "You'll need to speak with our mascot." "Duffman." "Oh, yeah." Duffman's office was a velvet-draped closet with one mirror, 2 bicep curl machines, and 3 personality disorders. He greeted me in full costume, cape fluttering from a desktop fan. "Duffman welcomes you to Justice Town. Population, you." "Sit down, Sparkle Chest," I said. "We're talking crimes." He did one squat. "Duffman sits for no one." "Then you can squat your way through this indictment." I tossed the folder on his protein bar. He flipped through it, grimaced. "Duffman does not do spreadsheets." "Who does?" I asked. Cheryl. She just threw you under the corporate party bus." He deflated, literally, removed his foam abs, sat down slowly. "Okay," he whispered. "We might have gotten creative with the budget, but I was just following orders." "Whose?" I pressed. He hesitated, then said the name I was hoping not to hear. "Burns." Of course. The man who could power a city but wouldn't power his own conscience. "He owns Duff," Duffman muttered. "Through 16 shell companies and a holding firm called Evil Corp." "That sounds fake." "So do his tax returns." I left the brewery with a duffel bag of fake invoices, a headache soaked in hops, and a burning question. Why would Montgomery Burns funnel money through Duff Moe's, and a clown. I needed answers. And maybe electrolytes. So I paid a visit to the one person in town who kept records better than any accountant, Lisa Simpson. She was in her room, building a solar-powered jazz flute. "I've been waiting for you," she said. "You always say that." "Because it's always true." I showed her the folder. She scanned it in 2 seconds. "All these payments tie back to Burns," she said. "He's been inflating the value of Duff stock using circular transactions." "Speak adult," I grunted. "It's like this," she explained. "Duff gives money to Moe. Moe pays Krusty for fake ads. Krusty invests in Duff, which makes Duff look valuable. Burns cashes out. Everyone else gets stuck with expired beer and Moe's bathroom keys." "Why Moe?" I asked. "He's Springfield's dumbest reliable asset," she said. "You can trust him to be shady, but not smart." "And the others?" "Distractions," Lisa said. "Stu, Krusty, even Milhouse, their noise. Burns is the signal." "Then what's next?" I asked. She handed me a floppy disk. "I intercepted Burns' offshore files," she said. "You'll need someone legally unqualified to help you read them." "I know just the man," I said. "Lionel Hutz." Worse. Gil. Somehow even worse. "Dear God," Lisa whispered. "Exactly," I said. "I'm going to see Reverend Lovejoy." Chapter 4. Krusty's Cash Clown Undrum. Clowns and money don't mix. Not unless you want your cash smelling like seltzer water and lawsuits. So naturally, Springfield let a full-time children's entertainer and part-time tax dodger run a media empire. Krusty the Clown. Real name, Herschel Schmeichel, Pinchas Yerucham Krustowski. Criminal record, longer than his gag reel. The man had filed bankruptcy so many times, he had punch cards. If there was funny business going on at Duff and Moe's, you could bet Krusty was funneling something through a puppet, or laundering through merch, or hiding invoices in a pile of whoopee cushions. I found him backstage at Channel 6, throwing glitter at a producer and screaming about the lighting. His tie was crooked, his eyes were twitching, and his teeth looked like they'd been scrubbed with a cheese grater. "Don't you people know what backlight is?" he shrieked. Then he turned and saw me. His face went pale. Well, paler than usual. He tried to flee behind a giant pie prop. "Krusty," I barked. "Federal investigation. Sit your rubber nose down." He sat. Mostly because he tripped over a bowling pin labeled Tuesday Sketch. "I didn't do nothing," he wheezed. "I'm a victim of clown profiling." I dropped Moe's ledger and Duff's invoice folder in his lap. "Then why are you listed as the single biggest recipient of Moe's promotional? Ad buys this side of a Chuck E. Cheese." He blinked. "Those were legitimate business transactions. You ran 15 ads at 3 a.m. on a defunct UHF station. In Portuguese, we have an international audience, he said. What were you promoting? He shifted, sweated. Limited edition clown NFTs. You sold NFTs, I asked. Of yourself? Of me, crying, he admitted. They're called sad coins, very exclusive. And Mo bought them. He said they spoke to his soul. They also drained half his checking account. I opened a file Lisa had given me. Inside were Krusty's offshore holdings. 10 shell companies. 3 in the Cayman Islands. 2 in a place labeled Marshmallow Lagoon. And 1 registered to a sock puppet. What is Crust Holdings? I asked. A charitable foundation, he shouted. For disadvantaged entertainers. Clowns. Ventriloquists, too. And where's the money go? He laughed nervously. To, sustain the mission. Which is? To keep me out of jail. I looked him dead in the eyes. You're being used, Krusty. This Duff-Mo-Krusty triangle is part of a bigger scheme. And the guy pulling the strings isn't wearing polka dots. He went quiet. For once. Then he mumbled, Burns. Go on. He offered me ad contracts if I'd process certain transactions. Said it would stabilize Duff stock and ensure regional clown liquidity. You knew it was fraud. I thought it was performance art. I shook my head. There's only one place a confession like that belongs. The confessional. And Springfield only had one priest brave enough to take it. I drove to the First Church of Springfield. It was empty except for Reverend Lovejoy polishing a pew with a rag that said, Property of Moe's Tavern. Reverend, I said. He didn't flinch. Just nodded like he'd already seen this coming. I need a safe place to talk to a clown about offshore finance. He sighed. Springfield. Krusty entered, hat in hand. For a second, he looked almost human. I just wanted to tell jokes, he said. I didn't mean to commit 15 counts of wire fraud. Lovejoy stared at him. In this town, that's practically a sacrament. As Krusty confessed, I pieced it all together. Duff was the engine. Mo was the mouthpiece. Krusty was the clown-faced cover. And somewhere in the shadows, Burns was counting money with tongs. I left the church with one final lead. A receipt Krusty had stashed in a Bible for one massive wire transfer. Destination, Evergreen Terrace, the Simpson house, which meant one of them, Homer, Marge, Bart, or God help us, the baby, was involved. And tomorrow, I was knocking on their door. Chapter 5. Disco Stew and the Vinyl Vault. Some people launder money through art. Others use shell companies or crypto scams. Disco Stew uses vinyl. And not the cool kind. We're talking deep cuts so obscure they sound like elevator music from the fifth dimension. His criminal genius. Nobody in their right mind would ever audit disco records. Except me. Stu's studio was a condemned roller rink on the edge of town. Half roof, half laser show, all bass. He greeted me at the door, wearing mirrored bell-bottoms and a chest so oiled it reflected guilt. "Detective Ratham," he said, pointing finger guns at me. "Welcome to the Groove Zone." "This place got permits?" I asked. "Just one," he said, "for hot dog vending." "And where's the cart?" "Financially speaking," he replied, "every crate of vinyl is a hot dog." He led me to the back, where hundreds of records were stacked floor to ceiling. No labels, no sleeves, just handwritten tags like Groove Alpha, Boogie Trial Exhibit A, and Do Not Touch contains Luxembourg. "These," Stu said proudly, "are my assets." "You mean your accounting scam?" He scoffed. "I'm not some charlatan. I'm a cultural preservationist." I picked up a record. It was warped and smelled like anchovies. "This one's listed as worth $5,000. He nodded. "Limited release. Only played once at a dentist rave in 1981. "And someone paid you for this?" "Many people," he said. "In Moldova. And once in Oregon. But that was a guy dressed as a banana." "You used Moe's Tavern to route the cash." "It had a good vibe," he shrugged. "And crusty. Bought an entire crate. Said it helped him cry more authentically during makeup." I opened a glitter-covered folder labeled Stu's Financial Funk Book. Inside invoices for spiritual groove transfers, boogie consultations, and soul rental. All paid in cash. All rounded to suspiciously perfect numbers. "This isn't accounting," I muttered. "It's finger painting with decimals." Stu turned serious. "Well, disco serious. Still finger guns, just slower." "Look, Ratham," he said. "Burns needed movement. He said I had the vibes for plausible deniability. He used you. He used all of us," he said. "Except Flanders. He's running his own scam." That made me pause. "Flanders?" "Yep. Selling faith shares in a church-sponsored crypto token. He calls it PrayPal." I stared at Stu. "You know that's mail fraud, securities fraud, and spiritual fraud. Triple threat," he said. I snapped a photo of the ledgers, the records, and Stu holding a disco ball full of nickels. Then I made a call. To Lisa. She answered mid-saxophone solo. "Lisa," I said, "have you ever heard of a transaction routed through Vinyl Vault Global, LLC?" She paused. "That's one of Burns's shell entities. Used to buy cultural assets and move funds offshore. He's been cleaning money through disco." "He's been cleaning Springfield through disco," I said. You ready for the next connection? She asked. Hit me. I traced a chain of donations from Vinyl Vault Global to a charity called Oakley Dokley Development. Flanders. Exactly, she said. And you won't believe who's listed as a board member. Try me. Maggie Simpson. I stared at the phone. Lisa, she can't even talk. I know, she said. That's why it worked. This wasn't just a Springfield scam anymore. This was generational. A town-wide puppet show with Burns's hand in every sock. I left Stu under a glittering fog machine and headed straight for the first church. It was time to knock on Ned's door. And when it opened, he was already holding a pie. Chapter 6. Lisa the Leak. Lisa Simpson is the kind of kid who reads Nietzsche before bed and writes letters to the Federal Reserve. Most children her age are drawing horses or eating paste. She's diagramming municipal fraud with a highlighter. So when I say she's Springfield's most dangerous mind, I don't mean that figuratively. I mean that literally. And with receipts. I found her at school, sitting under a tree, reading a book, titled Advanced Forensic Accounting for Toddlers. You're early, she said, not looking up. You're 8, I replied. I contain multitudes, she muttered. I handed her a flash drive I'd pulled from Disco Stew's Funk Vault. She plugged it into a solar-powered tablet she'd assembled out of cafeteria trays and printer ink. Most of these files are junk, she said, scrolling. But look, here's the shell pattern. She showed me a dizzying chart of arrows, arrows, and more arrows, each pointing to offshore entities with names like Clown Fund, Duff Trust, and Oakley LLC. All of them tied to a central hub, Burns Holdings. It's a starburst pattern, she explained. Money flows out through donations, ad contracts, fake licensing. Then it re-enters through inflated Springfield real estate purchases and local campaign donations. Campaign donations? I asked. To whom? She clicked again. A photo popped up. Mayor Quimby, holding a check and a turkey leg. He thought it was a sweepstakes, Lisa said. But that money made him legal cover for every shady zoning deal Burns needed. And your role in all this? I asked. Analyst, archivist, unpaid truth bomb technician. You leaked to me. I did. Why? She finally looked up. Because Springfield doesn't need another mascot. It needs a reckoning. I nodded. Then I sighed. Then I realized I was taking orders from a 4th grader. How far does this go? I asked. Further than you want, she said. Next on your list, Milhouse. Milhouse? Burns used him as a courier. Low suspicion, easy bribes, hidden messages in Capri Sun pouches. That explains the fruit punch stains on the invoices. Find him, Lisa said, before he panics and eats the evidence. I started toward the schoolyard gate. but she called after me. "Ratham." I turned. "Be careful," she said. "They're getting smarter, or at least less dumb." I drove to the Van Houten residence, a house perpetually trapped in the aesthetic year 1994. Milhouse opened the door wearing night vision goggles and holding a spoon like a weapon. "You're here," he shouted. I knew this day would come. "Relax," I said. "You're not under arrest yet." He blinked behind the goggles, then ran upstairs yelling, "Activate Operation Snack Drop." I followed, up the stairs, past a framed picture of a lunch tray, into his bedroom. The room was covered in string, literal string. Pinboards everywhere, photos of Mo, Krusty, a suspiciously buff disco stew photo labeled Possible Cyborg. "You know about the Syndicate?" I asked. Milhouse saluted. "I was their paperboy, literally. I delivered forged ledgers hidden inside Highlights magazines. Did you know what you were moving?" "No. I thought they were puzzles. One was just 400 pages of numbers and a sticky note that said Boogie." He handed me a crumpled envelope. Inside was a miniature contract with Krusty's face on it, signed in glitter ink. "They paid me in Krusty bucks," he said. "Those aren't legal tender." I found that out too late. "Any idea where the backups are kept?" I asked. Milhouse hesitated, then whispered, "Behind the treehouse. There's a hatch. They called it the vault." "You're coming with me," he screamed again. But this time it was excited. We left through the backyard, past broken toys and a suspiciously shredded trampoline. Behind the treehouse was a small trapdoor. Inside, a dusty crate. Labels read "Fudge Samples," "Tax Stash," and "Lisa, do not touch." I opened it. Inside were floppy disks, a Krusty branded pager, and a note written in Comic Sans. "If found, please return to Mr. Burns, or destroy immediately. Love, Smithers." This was the hard proof, the data Lisa needed, the evidence Burns didn't want anyone to see. And in the middle of it all was a receipt for a $50,000 donation to Oakley Dokley Development, signed by Ned Flanders. Tomorrow, I'd be knocking on his door, and this time I wasn't coming for pie. Chapter 7. The Milhouse Misdirection. Milhouse Van Houten was not born to be a criminal. He was born to be picked last in dodgeball and cry on field trips. The fact that he ended up tangled in a crosstown financial web was either the greatest accident in crime history or the result of trusting a clown in a convertible. I had just finished digging through the vault behind the treehouse when Lisa sent me a message. A spreadsheet. Tagged Milhouse Timeline Classified. I opened it. What I saw looked like gibberish, until I noticed the pattern. Capri Sun delivery dates. snack pack shortages, and a consistent Tuesday drop at Moe's labeled Fizzy Transfer. Milhouse wasn't just a courier. He was the pipeline, the mule, the unsuspecting backbone of Springfield's dumbest laundering operation. I met him after school. He was hiding in the back of the Quickie Mart, chewing on the corner of a Lunchable and looking guilty about it. "You're in deep, kid," I said. He squeaked like a rubber duck full of trauma. I didn't know I was laundering money. I thought I was in the junior executive snack club. "You were smuggling encrypted clown invoices inside pudding cups," I said. "Do you know how many felony charges come with that?" "More than 10. "Correct." He sat on a crate of expired bazooka gum. His knees were shaking. So was the gum. "They told me it was for entertainment logistics," he whined. "Krusty gave me a badge and a sticker book." "Who else was involved?" "Nelson," he said. "He ran security." "Security?" "He beat up anyone who tried to read my folders." "And the source of the files?" "Sometimes Krusty. Sometimes a guy in a top hat and ski mask who called himself Professor Tax Write-Off." "Okay," I said. "Now you're making that up." Milhouse shrugged. "I kept the costume," he said, "for emotional processing." I took out a Krusty-branded pager from the vault. "Ever see this?" He gasped. "That's the one. Every time it buzzed, I had to run across town with a thermos full of glitter and an envelope marked "Shh." I pocketed the pager. Then I handed him a granola bar. He'd earned it. "Anything else I should know?" I asked. He hesitated, then said, "There's a message." "In what?" "In Morse code." I tapped it out on my retainer every time they gave me an envelope. "You're telling me you encrypted a confession in dental plastic?" "It was the safest place I had," he whispered. We drove to his dentist, who was also his therapist. I explained the situation. He nodded, then handed me a retainer case labeled "Property of Agent Blueberry." Back at HQ, Lisa helped me decode it. It took 2 hours, a laser scanner, and 6 peppermint teas. When we were done, we had everything. Names, dates, amounts, every Duff transfer, every clown payment, even a suspicious charge to Oakley Dokley Development, signed in cursive scripture. Flanders. The next domino. Lisa looked at me. "You have everything you need." "Except a warrant and a soul," I replied. She handed me both. "Well, just the warrant." That night, I stood outside the Flanders house. It glowed with innocence and low-interest Christian mortgage rates. I knocked. He opened the door, wearing an apron, holding a Bible in one hand and a tray of muffins in the other. "Detective Ratham," he said. "I've been praying for you." He smiled. I didn't, because behind him, I could already see it. A corkboard, covered in tax forms, cryptographs, and a sticker that read Deuteronomy DAO. Time to question the holiest man in Springfield. Chapter 8. Burns' Big Giveaway. You ever see a vulture give out sandwiches? That's how it felt watching Mr. Burns host a charity gala. All bones and grins, handing out oversized novelty checks like they were flyers for a fire sale. The whole town was there. A sea of wide-eyed Springfieldians packed into the town square. Kids on shoulders, old folks wheeled in on stretchers, even comic book guy had put on pants. And center stage, under a banner that read Burns Gives Back, Terms and Conditions Apply, stood the man himself. He wore a glittery tuxedo. Not sequins, real diamonds. Each one cursed by a different minor deity, if the fine print was to be believed. Smithers hovered just behind him, holding a velvet sack stuffed with cash, contracts, and what looked suspiciously like Krusty's deed to an offshore clown yacht. Something stank. And for once, it wasn't the Quimby Porter podium. I moved through the crowd like a shark in church. People were weeping, cheering, throwing their dentures in joy. Some lady fainted when Burns handed her a coupon for free groceries, up to $1.17. Then he grabbed the mic. A hush fell over the square. Or maybe the mic just cut out. Either way, it got quiet. My dear, sweet, tax-paying flesh puppets, he began. Today marks the dawn of a new era. An era where generosity flows freely from the loins of wealth. And by loins, I of course mean a tightly controlled shell corporation in the Cayman Islands. He started handing out prizes. A scooter to a kid with 2 broken arms. A full scholarship to Springfield. AI Trade School, now under federal investigation. A year's supply of oatmeal to groundskeeper Willie. None of it cooked. The people were eating it up. Metaphorically. Willie actually tried to eat the oatmeal and chipped a molar. Behind the stage, I spotted a loading van marked Philanthroco Logistics, which was odd because it was being driven by Snake Jailbird and Wiggum's cousin-in-law, Clancy Jr., a known embezzler and part-time balloon artist. I crept around back and cracked the van open. Inside, stacks of Springfield Syndicate paperwork, half signed by Krusty, half in glitter pen, all filed under non-charitable donations. And under that, a Duff crate labeled for the poor, full of empty champagne bottles and what looked like Disco Stew's tax returns. Burns was laundering the syndicate's dirty money through staged philanthropy. He wasn't giving it away. He was laundering it in broad daylight. Classic. Cynical. Effective. I stepped back out as he announced the grand prize. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, he croaked. To serve one unpaid internship in the hallowed halls of Burns Manor. Milhouse clapped. Flanders wept. Lisa stormed off muttering something about capitalism's final form. I pulled Smithers aside. He was trying to fan Burns with a stack of forged donation receipts. Care to explain why your boss is handing out shell companies like party favors? I asked. Smithers blinked. Are you accusing Mr. Burns of community engagement fraud? No, I said. I'm accusing him of being good at it. The smile cracked. For a second, just a second, Smithers looked like a man who'd seen the inside of too many donation envelopes. Then it vanished. Would you like a scooter, detective? That night, I sat in my office staring at a flyer. Burns' big giveaway. Everyone's a winner, especially him. I'd seen cons before, but never ones with legal disclaimers this airtight. Burns hadn't just covered his tracks. He'd paved them in gold and named them after himself. The case was shifting. No longer about clowns and Capri Suns. This went all the way up the ladder. And I was pretty sure Mr. Burns owned the ladder factory. Chapter 9. The Flanders Fund. I always knew Ned Flanders was hiding something. I just didn't think it would be blockchain-based. Most people know Ned as Springfield's resident cardigan cultist. He barbecues in snowstorms. He compliments the IRS on their font choice. And until recently, I thought his deepest secret was a fondness for decaf root beer. But then, Deuteronomy DAO started trending on Christian Twitter. A decentralized, scripture-backed crypto fund designed to ethically empower spiritual microtransactions. In Ned speak, that meant, send me money and I'll pray about what to do with it. And people did. Oh boy, did they ever. The Flanders Fund raked in millions within a month. Tithes, NFTs of burning bushes, holy wallet addresses. What caught my eye was the IP trail. Several of the Syndicate's shell accounts, under aliases like Clowncoin, Pickled Token, and Donut DAO, had all been running transactions through Ned's so-called Holy Ledger. That's how I ended up sitting in the first reformed crypto tabernacle of Springfield, staring at a stained glass window shaped like a QR code. Ned was at the pulpit, wearing a digital cassock and VR headset. His sermon was live-streamed on Twitch. Smithers was in the chat saying Amen with fire emojis. Ned took off the goggles and waved cheerily. Well, howdy, Detective Ratham. Here to invest in some soul-secured assets. Something like that, I said. I flashed my badge. He mistook it for a commemorative tithing card and tried to scan it with his phone. I walked him through what I'd found. The anonymous wallets, the Duff coin reroutes, the crusty-backed mana token that promised eternal returns and backstage clown passes. Ned blinked. Well, golly, sounds like someone's been misusing my righteous infrastructure. His voice was calm, but I could see the sweat soaking through his second sweater. Would you say you're the sole administrator of the Flanders Fund? I asked. He smiled. No, sirree, Deuteronomy D. AO is fully decentralized. Then he whispered, except for me and God. We toured the server room. It was in the church basement, cooled by old hymnals and powered by a hamster wheel labeled Todd. Rows of beige towers blinked holy blue. On one screen, a dashboard showed donation spikes every time Disco Stew released a remix or Mo got arrested. Another showed NFTs of Leviticus verses overlaid with laser cats. Burns had minted 3 of them. I found the payout ledger. It read like a grocery list of Springfield's worst. Stew Vault 69, $11,000. Milhouse coin, 420,000 tokens. Reverend Love token, $0, denied for blasphemy. Ned looked nervous. I only process what the community votes on. Sometimes the Lord moves in mysterious, unregulated ways. I leaned in. Tell me the truth, Ned. Did you build this thing to do good? Or just to feel better about being Springfield's nicest middleman? He sat down hard on a folding pew. I started it for missions. New hymn books, Wi-Fi for the widows group, a VR prayer app. But then the money came, and the Syndicate started requesting blessings. Blessings? Yeah. Like Mo asked me to sanctify his offshore bar licenses. Milhouse baptized some NFTs. Krusty gave 10% of his clown casino tokens and demanded a sermon on jesters. I sighed. The whole operation was technically legal. Morally, it made a Wiggum sting look like a TED Talk. Ned pulled out a flash drive. This has the logs. All the transactions. I kept a copy, in case the Holy Spirit needed audit backups. I took it. He smiled, but it didn't reach his mustache. I didn't mean for it to go sideways, Detective. I just wanted to make crypto righteous. I nodded and headed for the door. As I passed the baptismal tank, I noticed it had been converted into a crypto ATM. Insert wallet. Receive forgiveness. Outside, the church bells rang 12 times. Not for the hour. Just a glitch in the Bellcoin smart contract. The Syndicate was getting spiritual. And I had a flash drive full of holy fraud. Next stop, Otto's van. And probably a contact high. Chapter 10. Otto's Van of Secrets. There's only one place in Springfield where you can find a lava lamp, a bass guitar, and 6 active crypto mining rigs, all in the same seat row. And that place is Otto's school bus. Technically, it's still district property. Practically, it's a mobile crime cave with fuzzy dice, and possibly sentient mold. I was invited aboard under the guise of field trip security. Otto greeted me with a grin, sunglasses crooked, ponytail tied back with what appeared to be a guitar string. Detective Ratham, man. Welcome to the most decentralized vehicle in the district. The inside was warm and loud. Mining rigs hummed beneath booster seats. Loose wires hung like jungle vines from the ceiling. Every window was tinted with a film that looked suspiciously like barbecue sauce. Duff-coin nodes, Otto said proudly, pointing to a series of dusty laptops duct-taped to the overhead compartment. We process transactions while we cruise. Eco-mining man. Motion-powered hashing. He patted the engine compartment like it was a pet. It all started when Bart showed me how to reroute the brake system into a GPU cluster. Now every red light is a payday. I looked down. Where a gas pedal should have been, there was a mine button. The speedometer had been replaced with a Bitcoin ticker. "Isn't this a school bus?" I asked. "Only during exams," Otto said. "Rest of the time it's a rolling DAO." DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, usually a group of coders pooling funds for projects. In this case, it was Otto and Bart turning school routes into income streams. They had shareholders. Parents unknowingly invested every time they gave their kid lunch money. Each PB&J had a transaction fee. Each juice box came with a non-fungible receipt. I sat in the back, next to a pile of wires that may have once been a trombone. Otto handed me a headset. "Here, plug in. We've got a blockchain jam sesh coming up." I put the headset on. An animated dashboard popped into view. Animated Bart avatars bounced along a line graph marked Profits. One was labeled Burns Pay Sponsorship. Another said Sax Coin, minted with love, hi Lisa. Otto leaned in. "Every time I play Stairway to Heaven, we unlock a new block. It's spiritually encrypted." We drove past the police station. The Wi-Fi boosted. I saw Wiggum's personal login ping the system. He was unknowingly staking donuts as collateral. "How involved is Bart?" I asked. Otto turned solemn. "He's the brains. And the marketing. He once airdropped prank tokens to every locker in school." A shriek from the glove box. Otto opened it. Out rolled Ralph Wiggum, covered in foil and giggling. "He lives here now," Otto said. I looked at the logs. Every detour, every illegal turn, every missed drop-off. It all mapped onto hash spikes and transaction timestamps. Even the potholes had been converted into vibration-based encryption generators. It was genius. And terrifying. And somehow smelled like Funyuns and sage. "Are you laundering money?" I asked. Otto paused. "Only metaphorically, dude. We wash it in the vibrations of the road." I confiscated a flash drive labeled Bus Chain V3 and exited at the next red light. Otto drove off into the distance, windows down, rig fans whirring, and Ralph Wiggum singing something about potatoes. I called Lisa. She confirmed what I'd suspected. Bart had written the code. Lisa had left breadcrumbs in the algorithm. All I had to do was follow the bus route backward to its source. And that source was about to take the stand, because next came the cops. And not just me. Springfield PD was about to enter the story, and they were farting all over the evidence room. Chapter 11. Springfield PD. Internal Fart Fair. The moment I walked into Springfield PD, I knew something smelled wrong. And I don't just mean metaphorically. It was a combination of burnt popcorn, stale taquitos, and something deeply, irreversibly Wiggum. I'd come to inspect the evidence locker, but judging by the sound of an electric scooter and the smell of jalapeno cheese, Chief Wiggum had beaten me to it. "Detective Ratham," he called from behind a wall of bean dip. "Pull up a chair or a box of confiscated fireworks, either works." I found him in the evidence room, shirt untucked, mouth full, laptop open to an eBay auction titled "Rare, possibly illegal Springfield artifacts, no returns." Next to him, Officer Lou was taping bubble wrap around a diamond-encrusted kazoo. Eddie was photographing a crate of bootleg Duff NFTs with a flip phone. "You're selling evidence?" I asked. Wiggum burped. "Reallocating resources, buddy. The taxpayers want transparency. We're just monetizing justice." He clicked refresh on the laptop. "Whoa, Disco Stew's mirrored jumpsuit just hit $900. That's 2 tasers and a month of footlongs." I looked at the evidence log. Half the entries were crossed out and replaced with pizza coupons. One read, "Confiscated crypto wallet, traded for KFC." "This is a felony," I said. Wiggum frowned. "I prefer non-traditional justice initiative." I stepped around a pile of flat-screen TVs labeled Evidence Moe's Bar. One still had his name carved into the side. Lou handed me a flyer. "Springfield's first ever evidence auction, sponsored by Burns' Big Giveaway." There was a clip art gavel, confetti, and what looked like Krusty's face photoshopped onto Lady Justice. I turned to Wiggum. "You partnered with Mr. Burns?" He nodded proudly. "Got a grant. He calls it retributional philanthrocapitalism. Very trendy." Another fart echoed through the room. Automatic fans kicked in. A stack of evidence folders blew off the shelf and into the taco tray. "You're contaminating every single chain of custody." Lou shrugged. "We laminated the drugs. That counts for something." I spotted something on the auction list that stopped me cold. Lisa's USB drive. The one she used to track Bart's blockchain. Marked as flashy pink thing, possibly USB toothbrush. I grabbed it. Wiggum tried to protest. "I already got bids on that. Some guy named Agent Blueberry 69 really wants it." I shot him a look. He slouched. "Okay, fine. Take it. But you owe me 1 slushie from the break room." Back at my desk, I plugged in the drive. Encrypted files, smart contract receipts, GPS tracking. It was all there. The Syndicate wasn't just laundering money. They were passing it through auctions, fake giveaways, and school bus hash rigs. The final ledger linked every scheme back to one address. Burns. Of course it was Burns. He hadn't just bankrolled the crime spree. He'd orchestrated it. Each donation bought him silence. Each raffle erased a record. Every Taquito-funded auction was just a cog in his oily machine. And the worst part, nobody even noticed. They were too busy bidding on Barney's vibrating recliner. It was time to bring this to court. or at least to the sleepy, confused people pretending to be caught. I packed up the files, straightened my tie, and grabbed a donut from the evidence tray. For strength, because next came the trial, the final deposition, and the whole town, idiots, syndicate, cops and all, would be there. Chapter 12. Donuts and Depositions. The courtroom smelled like powdered sugar and regret. Judge Snyder sipped from a coffee mug labeled legal-ish. A bailiff snored softly in the corner. And every seat on the bench squeaked in unison as the defendants shuffled in. 12 defendants. 1 courtroom. 0 functioning brain cells. Milhouse wore aviator shades and a cape. Agent Blueberry mode. He tapped out his plea in Morse code using a Capri Sun straw. Homer took the stand first. He brought a donut. Exhibit A, he said proudly, before eating it in one bite. Powdered sugar exploded across the microphone. Mr. Simpson, I asked, do you understand the charges against you? He blinked. Laundering. I don't even separate my whites. Mo testified next. He brought a jar of pickled eggs as a bribe. Judge Snyder gagged. The eggs were entered into evidence and then immediately escorted out by a hazmat team. Disco Stew moonwalked into the witness box. Every answer was sung. Every syllable sparkled. The stenographer gave up and started freestyle beatboxing instead. Lisa presented the blockchain trail. Color-coded flowcharts. Encrypted wallet maps. A 73-slide PowerPoint titled Burns Coin, a deep dive into deceit. Judge Snyder stared blankly. So, is it good or bad? Lisa sighed. I'm 12. Why am I the only one taking this seriously? Mr. Burns appeared via telepresence robot. It short-circuited halfway through his monologue. Smithers crawled in from under the table and continued reading the statement in a perfect impression. I merely wish to give back to the community, Burns said, by which I mean launder my fortune and weaponize philanthropy, as one does. Ralph Wiggum objected. He wasn't part of the case. He just wandered in holding a goldfish. Nobody stopped him. Krusty juggled subpoenas. Ned Flanders handed out Forgive Coin stickers. Otto offered the judge a free mining rig test drive. And Milhouse kept tapping. Eventually, Judge Snyder had heard enough. He rubbed his temples. Court is adjourned. I need a nap and a constitutional crisis. I stood, pulled the USB drive from my pocket, walked to the evidence box, placed it gently between a donut and a kazoo. Everything you need is in there, I said. Ledgers, witness statements, bribery logs, even the original recipe for Krusty's tax-evading glitter bombs. I turned to leave. Wiggum was asleep on the bench, hugging the American flag. Lou was live streaming. Eddie was auctioning off the judge's gavel. As I stepped into the hallway, the doors creaked closed behind me. The town was still stupid. still corrupt, but maybe, just maybe, a little more self-aware. Justice hadn't been served. It had been gently microwaved and sprinkled with powdered sugar. That's Springfield for you. Sweet, sticky, and always just a little bit fried. I lit a match, dropped it in the trash can because I forgot to turn off my coffee maker, and because symbolic exits are cool. Detective Jason Ratham. Case mostly closed.